Yeah.
Hello. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, a concrete fire station, it wasn't really designed for acoustics, Ginger, that's why it's...
The flowers are absorbing the sound.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Let me come and sit next to you.
Yeah,
Pretend like I like you.
that's right.
As if you've known each other for a few years.
Oh, just a few years.
So first and foremost, congratulations. 40, I got used to saying 40 years, but now we're at 41 years of orchestral maneuvers in the dark, so congratulations. And on your recent release. So when was the last time you were in Tucson, do you remember?
I think it was 86, last concert we played. Tucson.
And I've just been reminded it was across the road there, apparently. With
Oh, at the Tucson Convention
But I actually was here in April because after we played in Phoenix, Ginger brought me over to Tucson and I saw this space in April last year with a view to doing this amazing exhibition. So it's, yeah.
Isn't it incredible? I love
It's
it.
fantastic.
It's really amazing. I imagine there may be a few folks that were at that show in Tucson back in the day. I saw some albums. Maybe people brought cassettes to sign as well. All right, so I'm going to go back and take us to the beginning because I think the story of Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark and how you all started is really incredible. And so take us back to the outskirts of Liverpool.
Yep.
This is the early mid-70s. So thinking about the punk scene that was happening, the prog rock, the guitar-driven music at the time, and how you all started getting into the music scene and creating your band.
Where do we begin?
Yeah, it's a long road, isn't it? I think the thing is that we were at school together. We've known each other since we were 7. We went to where Paul's family came to live, where I grew up. And we kind of went our separate ways. We knew of each other, but we didn't know each other very well. And then on my 16th birthday, I got wanted to buy a bass guitar. Bought a bass guitar. And as you do, I just walked around the local park with my new bass guitar.
Yeah, you couldn't play it. Couldn't play it.
No, I couldn't play it, I just had a bass guitar. Anyway, the next thing is there's a knock on the door and there's Paul and his friends. And Paul's like, my friends are looking for a bass player, because Paul didn't play anything at that time. You can play now, can't you?
It's just.
And so that's where the music thing started. I joined his friend's band, but quite quickly we realised that we had more things in common, and we started this symbiotic relationship. And so we've always seemed to need each other for a long time, because I was buying German import records on a Saturday, but he'd made a stereo. I had a crappy mono thing, so I went round to his house. So I had the records and he had the stereo, so it was working even in those days.
Yeah, I was kind of always been the geek in the band, and from being like 12 years old or 11 maybe, I used to make things. I used to make electronic gadgets and things.
And this was, from what I hear, at your mother's house. You kind of would tear things apart and put them back together.
Yeah, well the thing was, when we discovered Kraftwerk, we decided, electronic music was the future for us. It was sort of, we heard Autobahn on the radio, and it was the first day of the rest of our lives. But the problem we had was that we were 2 working class boys from Liverpool who had absolutely no money at all. And so we had to sort of make the instruments initially. So I used to build like these crazy noise-making machines to make music from. And that's where we started until we could afford a synthesizer.
Right, back in the day you were creating all of that. The music that you made was actually made out of musical pieces.
Yeah. I mean, his mum's aunties and friends would lend various radios and tape recorders.
And never get them back.
They'd never get them.
I used to rip them apart
because
make
all
something
the
else
circuits
out.
would be taken out. So, but I mean, that's where we started. I mean, we had a bass guitar. We had these machines that Paul made that made these weird noises, and we made very, very ambient music. And it wasn't until we finally got some keyboards that we actually started to write melody. The things that we're now known for, which is our melodies,
right.
But we started very ambient. Yeah.
So you mentioned Kraftwerk, which obviously was a huge influence on you.
Yeah.
And did you see Kraftwerk back in the day?
I did, he didn't, because I'm older than him. His mother wouldn't let him out.
No, I was still 15, and my mom said, "You're not going to any concerts until you turn 16." And I'm like, "But Kraftwerk are playing." I'm sorry, you can't go. He was already 16.
That's almost unforgivable.
So he went and I didn't.
I had that with the Doors.
I got the same
Front
experience.
row seats, and I was 13, and and my brother said, no, don't let her go, Mom.
I agree with you, Mother. I think that was shocking debauchery. You were kept well away from it.
1968.
It's what made you the person you are today.
So
Bitter
you,
and frustrated, yeah.
You got it.
Sorry, I was good.
so you heard Audubon, you got to see Kraftwerk, and so how did that
He did.
influence? You got to see Kraftwerk, Andy. So how did that influence the idea of what music could be and what music could sound like?
I think what we got from Kraftwerk was well, first of all, the idea that ideally we would like to do electronic music because it was going to not be influenced by the cliches of rock and roll. I mean, listen, in 1975 when I saw Kraftwerk and you didn't,
Just don't keep
rubbing the salt. This was the height of long hair and flared denims and lead guitar solos, and these four guys came out with short hair and suits and ties and playing like what looked like tea trays with electronic knitting needles, and it was just like, I just turned 16. This is like, wow, I want to do that. So we started doing ambient music, but what they taught us was that you can make music by using found sounds. I mean, particularly their album Radioactivity actually was the one that really inspired us because they had all sorts of snippets from the radio and also music concretes basically as well, but they were also very melodic. And so it was just the antithesis of rock and roll cliche, but we saw it as being melodic, exciting, breaking down the boundaries of what music could be, and also because they were foreign, it was all very exciting.
Yeah. But I think we took, Kraftwerk were very experimental, but there was always a great tune, and it was always a keyboard line. And I think we kind of took that as a blueprint for future songwriting, really. Because if you look at a lot of our early songs, we never had a vocal chorus. All the choruses were keyboard melodies, and we definitely took that from Kraftwerk.
And what other bands were around at the time? I know the scene was really happening in London, so you were starting to pull that music scene to Liverpool. Who else was around at that time?
Well, the thing was actually what happened was when punk broke in the UK, for a short period of time, the music scene kind of splintered out of being centred on London.
Yeah, decentralised.
And there was all these independent new wave clubs in the provincial cities. And I think it's no coincidence that actually at the time we started, all of our contemporaries are actually not from London. So you've got, from Sheffield and Leeds, Manchester, and Dublin, and Glasgow, all these different, Birmingham, all these bands who started playing their own music in provincial cities in little punk clubs. And so that, I think, was just for a couple of years, it decentralised and the door opened for bands like ourselves and UB40 and Human League and Simple Minds and U2.
Yeah, and I think we owe a lot to punk as well because even though we'd found our alternative music was electronic, the alternative music at that time was punk music, and all of these clubs opened up around the UK, but there weren't enough punk bands to play punk music every night, so they used to do alternative nights where you could get up and just do something interesting. So there's all these great venues opened up all around the UK where you could actually get on stage and express yourself and do interesting things.
And you officially formed as an orchestral maneuver in the dark in 1978, is that correct?
Yeah.
And you paired up with Factory Records, and they were at the time a relatively new label, is that right?
Yeah, in fact, we gave a cassette to the boss, Tony Wilson. When we met him, it was our second gig. We played in Manchester and we met him, but he was actually a TV personality, and he used to do this news program, and he used to allow local bands a bit of airtime to play their music and give them some exposure. So we cheekily gave him a cassette. We had no idea he was about to start a record label.
Oh, okay, so before he started Factory.
Yeah, and then we didn't hear from him for a while, and then he got back to us and said, look, I can't get you on the TV, it's booked up for months and months, but I'm starting a record label called Factory Records. And they just signed Joy Division.
This is how our entire career really just hangs on tiny threads of accidents, because we sent him a cassette and it sat in a plastic bag in his car for weeks. until his wife got in the car and went, "What's in this bag?" and put it in the
Is that right?
in the cassette player in the car. And went, "That's the sort of thing you should sign." He went,
This is a true story.
This is a true. We finally met his wife Lindsay because we'd heard this rumor that actually, because
For decades we'd heard this rumor.
it was actually his wife went, "No, this is really, really good," and apparently he was really sort of, condescending and went, "Okay, dear, I'll sign them just for you." And that apparently is the true story, that actually without his wife fishing this cassette out of the bag and putting it in the car, the bag would have gone in the garbage, and that would have been the end of our career.
Luckily, she had good
Hung
taste.
by a thread.
And so your first release, Electricity, 1979, your debut single, and Peter Seville did design, he was working with Factory Records and designed the sleeve cover, and he went on and designed Joy Divisions and Cabaret Voltaire, Roxy Music.
Yeah.
By the way, we have a few of those over in the Cake Sky Listening Lounge around the corner. Some of those great Peter Seville design albums.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, the interesting thing about Peter was that, he did do our first sleeve on Factory Records, and he did do the Joy Division stuff, but then we only did one single on Factory Records because Din Disc, a label in London who were a subsidiary of Virgin Records, really, signed us on a 7-album deal, and we went down to London.
And that was on the strength of your first release.
That was just on the strength of
Which
Electricity, yeah.
I can't imagine what you were feeling and thinking about at that time to get a 7-deal release with a Virgin
it was
subsidiary.
a pretty amazing thing, but my point is that we got into the offices of Din Disc for our first meeting, and we go up the stairs, and there's Peter Saville standing
Oh, wow.
there. I was like, "Peter, what are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, they just hired me as the art director." So,
What are you doing here? Well, we just signed
We just
it later. Perfect piece of. But it's no, I mean the whole business of. One thing that we missed out is we played on the 12th of October 1978, our first gig, and it was going to be the only gig.
This was at Eric's.
Yeah,
the small club.
Eric's, had an open door policy for local bands, and we just went and knocked on those and listened. Can we come and play? There's 2 of us, electronic music, tape recorder. We only had a tape recorder because nobody else wanted to be in the band.
How long did you have that tape recorder?
As long as we worked with the guy who owned it, who was our manager at the time.
when we fired him, he took it back.
But so yeah, we were just going to do this one gig. That's why we came up with the ridiculous, pretentious, stupid name that we've been stuck with for 40 years.
That we spelling correctly all the time.
Yeah, I know. Well, Americans spell the word maneuver incorrect. Oh, you've got it the European way. Yeah, good. But no, it was just going to be one gig. And then they said, well, we'll go to Manchester and meet these guys. So we went to, and that's where we met Tony. But so and I think we'd done like 15, 16 gigs by the time Factory signed us. And then we got the major deal. And it was just like, we were still playing songs that our friends still thought were shit.
They really did.
And so
This
it
wasn't a
This was
duo.
after you were already signed?
Yeah. The same guys who, once we'd made a record, wanted to join the band, obviously, but they're not in town yet, so we can talk about it.
They're on a flight, no idea.
So your second album, I won't go through album by album, but I want to touch on a few. Organization was your next album. Enola Gay was one of the tracks, and that was followed up by Architecture and Morality.
Yep.
So those two in the UK were huge albums, right? Architecture and Morality broke all kinds of records, and platinum in the UK, and US Billboard 200, so started to break into the US market. And that the Organization and Architecture and Morality, a little bit of a darker feel than your first release. So what were you being influenced by at that point?
Well, I think organisation, because we spent quite a lot of time with Joy Division, and we toured and we did a lot of shows at Joy Division. I think organisation, if I could pick one band that influenced that album, I think it was probably Joy Division. Because we loved their sort of dark melancholia. So that definitely influenced us.
So then we get to Dazzle Ships.
Yes.
So,
Which brings us to
Tucson.
Who knew 37 years later?
And if I read correctly, Peter Seville was the one who suggested the title or the idea?
Yeah, it was the ultimate case of the tail wagging the dog. Yeah, really. I think Peter will allow us to get. Yeah, he basically said, I have seen this painting, and in fact, that he's got a book down there on the wall, which is a print of the Wadsworth painting of Dazzle Ships in Liverpool Dry Dock. And he said, I've seen this Vortices painting. I want to do a Vortices Dazzle camouflage sleeve. Can you at least write one song called Dazzle Ships? Give me an excuse to do this sleeve. That was it. So literally, Peter said, "Can you do something like called Dazzle Ships so I could do this sleeve because I really want to do this sleeve?" And so we did, and then it became the title track of the album. But the funny thing was that Peter, being Peter, worked on the sleeve for so long. He distilled it and distilled it and distilled it down to the point where it became a non-sleeve. It was so minimal, and the night before, typically the night before I had to deliver it, you had to take it to another artist, Malcolm Garrett, and say, "Can you pad this back out again? I've over-distilled it." But yeah, basically, the album exists to go in the sleeve. It's the soundtrack to the sleeve. It really is.
So, as commercially,
disaster!
It didn't do so great, especially after the success of Architecture Morality. So what was the concept, what was the idea behind the music with Dazzle Ships?
Well,
it's very conceptual.
I mean, we did Architecture Morality, and it was a massive success. And some idiot at the record label said, "Okay, so just do Architecture Morality number 2, and you're going to be the next Genesis." It's like, okay, we're not going to do that then. And so we thought we needed to do something different. So, and you know, artistically, I mean, we kind of, well, commercially we fell off a cliff, but I think because it confused, it was too far removed from Architecture Morality, stylistically.
It was more than 15 minutes ahead of its time. So
definitely
more than that. And
40 years ahead of its time.
We hadn't sort of sugarcoated it. We left exposed, in the tradition of Kraftwerk's Radioactivity album, we'd left all of these kind of music concrete samples of communist radio stations and news programs. We you know, speaking clocks synchronized from around the world. We'd left all of those exposed because we finally wanted to just show people, you know, our conceptual art music, and it didn't work.
But in retrospect, it's certainly looked at now as something very forward, very progressive, and certainly has influenced so many newer bands.
It's become known as our fractured masterpiece.
But there's that phrase again, Peter. I met Peter last night and I was explaining to him that when it was re-released on CD and remastered, I decided to take hold of the rebranding of our album, and I wrote the press release.
You did write the press release.
And I described the album as our fractured masterpiece. And ever since then, all these lazy journalists have just been cutting and pasting it into their fractured masterpiece. They went, "Da! That's how you rebrand yourself, folks." But the truth is actually that over the years, people have discovered it and gone, it was actually top 5. I mean, it went into the chart, went straight back out again. But it was a top 5 album, and it's a lot of people, you know, kind of went, a pop group dared to do this, and it has influenced people over the years. So it's become our it's the problem child, the ugly duckling that was finally was a beautiful song.
Yeah, even bands like, you know, Radiohead and Killers
absolutely.
and stuff cite this album as an influence. So we did something right.
It's an excellent album. So then you turned back to more of a pop sound in Junk Culture, which kind of took you a different track.
It was our job. We had to sell records.
Yeah.
We
got scared. We got scared and needed to write some hits.
He was married.
Yeah, just got married.
Pressure.
We both bought houses. We had to pay the mortgage.
So you put out a few more albums during the 90s, and actually you split in 1989. So do you mind talking just a little bit about that, about splitting up, and then we'll get back to when you were united in 2006.
Well, I think, you know, there was a lot of factors why we split up then. And one of them was the fact that we signed a really, really shit record deal. And we were chasing our tail financially. You know, we'd sold millions and millions into records, and we got to 1989 and found out that we actually owed Virgin Records £1 million after selling.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And £1 million in 1989 was like 10 million now.
And it wasn't that we'd been crazy, you know, we weren't swanning around in yachts and having private Learjets. You know, for every handful of money they were giving you, they were taking back 3 handfuls.
Sure.
And it was just, you know,
We couldn't go on like that.
We'd sold, we'd sold about 15 million singles and 10 million albums, and we owed them £1 million.
I was like, how come?
Largely because we'd spent several years trying to break America, and it broke us. But because we were touring, supporting people, and we were losing a fortune. You know, we were having a great time. So yeah, we were just
that was
exhausted.
We were exhausted. We had, and because we were touring so much, we were having less and less time in the studio to write albums, and it's like the Pacific Age was the last album that we did, and a lot of people like the Pacific Age, but we literally had 2 months to write that album, and so it was the first 10 ideas we had to be the album, and we felt that we were becoming more and more compromised, and we really needed some time off, but then there was contracts and record labels saying, no, you can't come on. And so
I think that's something that really distinguishes you from a lot of other bands, is that you continue to care about the type of music that you were putting out, making a statement, making something that wasn't necessarily considered musical, sound musical, these beautiful sounds that you made with these different synthesizers, and you never really compromised it. Well, you maybe compromised a little bit in the middle.
Compromised a bit.
A bit in the middle.
Just to get our career back.
Yeah, but then you got your,
if you leave,
your career back. I wasn't gonna, those words were not gonna come out of my mouth. But,
that was what we like to call our craftsman period.
Yeah,
where
we
we weren't trying to change the world musically. We just knew how to write a song.
Yeah.
So 2006, you reunite and you come back with a History of Modern, I believe, in 2010. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that was the first thing you.
Yeah, we came back in 2006 and started touring, and then we had fun playing the whole architecture reality, the whole Dazzle Ships and things like that. And then we had a conversation and said, well, is this it? Are we now a tribute band to ourselves, or do we dare to go back into the studio?
Which a lot of other bands, I think, do.
So
that have been around.
We didn't tell anyone we were going back into the studio. We just did, and then we came up with this modern album.
There's not, by the way, there's nothing wrong with playing your hits.
Oh, no.
And if they are a soundtrack to people's lives and they remind them of the kind of informative period when they were inventing their vision of themselves, they stay with them and they resonate. And
we're still proud of them and love playing them,
But the dilemma for us was that we thought, well, this wasn't a kind of raison d'être. We didn't form the band to just be, like a nostalgia act. We were amazed that it happened. So we did the really kind of dangerous, stupid thing of trying to write some new music. But it's hard when you get older to come up with new ideas. It's hard not to just pastiche yourselves. And the sad thing is that, there are a lot of older bands who love touring, and they love the money it brings them, and the kudos and everything. And they feel like they need a new album to excuse the new tour, so they've got a new logo. And they just make really bad albums because they don't actually care about the music. They just feel they need a new album.
It's a branding exercise or something,
Yeah, and I think in your later albums, you were doing this in your early albums as well, just talking about just the machinery and this loneliness brought on by technology. Andy, you did a phone interview with Falcotronic from our radio station KXCI, and you talk about the efficiency of machinery. And even the title from the English Electric, The Future Will Be Silent. Can you talk a little bit about that? I feel like you almost got this I told you so moment, because you've been doing this kind of music from very early on, and you kind of brought it back.
You got to remember that, well, I was born in the 50s, he's a 60s boy. But we grew up in the generation that believed that the technological future was going to be utopian. And it turned out to be more dystopian than we thought. But because we used a lot of found sounds in our music, again, it becomes harder and harder to find concrete music, to find things that go, oh yeah, we haven't sampled that, we can make something out of that. And then a few years ago, when we were doing the English lecture, I started thinking, is there anything actually that we can sample anymore? Because the more digital, the more efficient you get. Because you start to realise, actually, the sound of machinery is an acoustic waste byproduct. It's an inefficiency of that machinery. It wasn't designed to make a sound. That's just it accidentally releasing energy by clanking or the steam engine going something. And people take those sounds and make them into rhythm tracks or the soundtracks to some concrete music. And I thought, the more the world gets technologically efficient, the less things there are to sample to make music. So I was thinking, the future will be silent. And actually, we went out for lunch today, and I nearly got run over by a fucking Prius because you can't hear them coming!
There's plenty of those in Tucson.
The example of the future will be silent.
So the future is silent and deadly.
And I think you also talk about thinking about this, your latest release, The Punishment of Luxury, which, congratulations. I think a lot of folks in the room were at that show up in Phoenix last April. I was there, my sister was there. Yeah, it was a great show. Your energy is great. The songs are still great songs. It's great music. But it still contains that interesting message, which I think is this thread that's been throughout your career.
Yeah, I mean, The Punishment of Luxury was a really fun album to make, and I'm very, very proud of that record still. I think
it wasn't fun, it was hard bloody work. It was fun once we finished it, and we thought, hey, this is good.
Yeah. But listening to it sounded like we had fun. But I'm very proud of this record, and I think some of the songs are really, really good. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we still, we do sometimes write about feelings and love and things like that. We do include that in our song
cliches.
Yeah, I mean, because we all feel that. Even robots like us, we have feelings too. But no, we do always put in the subject matter of our songs things that we're interested in at that time. And The Punishment of Luxury is an example. We're being fed on TV all of these products that we actually don't really need. But like kids in school, they don't think they're cool without the latest sneakers, but they don't actually really need them. All this technology that we're being fed. We're happy with our 40-inch TV until the 50-inch one comes out. And these are the punishments of luxury. And we're all suckered in by it. We are too, as people. But we thought we should, point these things out in our songs.
Well, you make them sound fun and interesting. I want to go back a little bit to the art, being inspired by art, because I think a few of your song titles or lyrics are based on paintings. Punishment of Luxury, actually, is also a painting?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's the techno geek, I'm the art geek. I was supposed to go and do a BA in fine art and took a gap year. That's when the band started. It's been a 40-year gap year. But it's, I take inspiration from art. I always have done. And so The Punishment of Luxury is actually it's a painting that's in the Walker Art Gallery. It's been one of my favourites since I was a teenager. I always have to quickly add that, frankly, we stole it, we appropriated the title but not the meaning, because it's a misogynist painting. It's bad mothers in purgatory. So we always have to say that we have appropriated the title but not the meaning. But yeah, there's a track on the album called Art Eats Art, which is addressing the postmodern era, where effectively it's so increasingly difficult to find somewhere new, because ever since artists detached themselves from the patronage of the church or rich people and kings and queens, they've been in this ever-increasing spiral of trying to go forward and create something